Hi, Beldrick here. This is a Sage commentary guide for the Aloalo Criterion dungeon. This is primarily for Savage, but this can be applied to the normal version as well. I'll be going over where I put my healing cooldowns and some things to watch out for. I'm gonna assume that you have a basic understanding of the mechanics that are going on throughout this dungeon. There might be a couple different strats that you might see from online, mostly on the last boss, I think. Without further ado, let's get right to it. Between Savage and normal Criterion, the mechanics are exactly the same. Everything just hits harder, and the mobs and bosses have more health. This first mob will hurt the tank pretty hard. I got lucky with a crit shield. You could use Haima here. Our tank will invuln very shortly after the first tank buster hits. That way it will last till the second tank buster. And at this point I use Soteria to help get his health back up. I also swift cast Azuna here because I don't want to get hit by the tornadoes. And then as the tank's invuln is wearing off, I'll use Terracoli here just to help with the remaining incoming damage. And then for this I'll be using Physis, Panhaima, and Caracoli. This ensures that Panhaima is up for the first AoE on the boss. Don't get hit by any of these abilities because they just one-shot. And note that when you heal the tank, it is possible that you'll just grab aggro on the mobs. It's usually okay. I've actually never died, so, but something to keep in mind because your health does get chunked down pretty good. This group is best in slot. I think one person is using the relic weapon from the Manderville, the last stage. One thing to note is that the enrage timer in this place as a whole is really not that bad. We actually had about a minute of downtime just waiting for cooldowns to come up. So this next mob hurts pretty hard, especially on the tank at the beginning. Once he starts doing Hydro Shot, he'll stop autoing. So I'll use Soteria as it comes back up, and then here I'll use Caracoli, ideally to catch all the initial damage from the Hydro Shots. And then we put a Physis and Holos, and it'll be up for when I need it later on the boss. I also Haima to help with the healing. And then ideally, the DPS is high enough that you will not get another round, because this hurts, and you kind of want your cooldowns for the boss. You can wait a little bit for 2 minutes to come up. Sometimes our ninja's Tenchi Jin kind of came up at a really awkward point that required movement, so delaying a few seconds to avoid that will definitely help. Just a nice precast shield. So for this first AoE, we use Panhaima and Caracoli. We save Physis for the Bubble Net AoE. Now I will Ixocoli here, plus one shield for the dots, and then another shield for the bubble net. Using Physis, and then with that we do a Zoe into Numa, and then everyone else should be fine and you don't need to heal them any further than that. And then at 15 seconds or less on the stack I will Caracoli so that it catches the stack marker damage. And here it's important to Holos at the right time so that it's up later in the fight, because the time is kind of tight. So we Holos as soon as the last debuff is below 20 seconds. and then Caracole when it's below 15 seconds. So that way we catch all of the debuff damage. As long as you Caracole'd 15 seconds or so from the last debuff, then it'll be up for here as well. I also use Physis here. It's not totally necessary, but if you're going to use it, you want to use it fairly early so that it's up for the wind part with the bubbles and crossing over. Here I will actually use Panheima, because there's really not another place to use it. So it just helps with the healing, gives a nice little cushion. Here I'll do a Pepsis and another shield. Not super necessary, there's not a whole lot of damage, but might as well. Alright, so for this next part you'll see Holos is not quite off cooldown. This is why you have to do it semi-early into that one mechanic. Otherwise it won't be up for this. But it's coming off cooldown. As soon as the knockback appears, I'll be using Holos. I'm using a lot of spells here, Caracole, and Physis. I also Haima the ranged player that's like nearly opposite of me because oftentimes they are just out of range. So I would just do some AoE spells, and then here I will do a Zoe into a Numa, and that should keep everyone nice and healthy. Something to note is that these towers, they do like 30k damage, so as long as people are above half health, they should be fine. Not even 24k on that, so. Here, we don't have a whole lot of stuff. We're just kind of manually healing, throwing out some shields and getting everyone healthy. Same as before, just use Caracole about when stacks go off, or you could save it for the AoE that's about to come up. If your DPS is good, you'll skip this. In our attempts, it's not always guaranteed, so I use Panheima here, and it should die. In a perfect world, we can save Panheima, but it's not a huge deal. Because otherwise I would reverse how I do the cooldowns here, but we'll assume worst case scenario. As before, the tank gets kind of chunked here. I use Panheima on them because it's just another safety net. Something to note, if you Azuna this quickly, he won't do Ovation and he'll not do the line AoE, and he'll just do more auto attacks on the tank. So honestly, it's better to be not early and just make him cast But as you can see, the tank is just getting chunked here. So just keep that in mind when you're running around. Here we use Holos and Physis. And Caracoli. If you delay Caracoli enough, you can grab this stack marker as well. Just always keep the tank's health in mind. Even if the tank pulls from across the map, these guys got long arms and they'll attack right away. One spell that I've neglected to really press is Crisis because I'm a bad sage, but remember that's part of your toolkit and that'll also help a little bit with healing the damage that these auto attacks do. For this one, we use pretty much the same stuff, except for instead of Holos, we use Panhaima, get Caracoli, and Physis. If we were able to save Panhaima from the first boss, I would have used Panhaima for the first ad AoE, and then Holos for this guy. That way you could actually Panhaima the analysis mechanic, and it just makes that super safe if you happen to have someone get a damage down there. It's just not a terrible AoE. Since there's no bleed, it's a lot more chilled than the last boss. So I just use Caracoli. For the analysis mechanic, you can get hit by one unintended damage source, and as a healer, I'm usually watching out if I need to throw out a quick heal just to ensure that we at least live through the mechanic, because we'd rather have damage down than die. As soon as I get into position to where I know where the first orb is, we use Physis. That way, all that damage will get healed up, and then while we're going to the safe spot, I Caracoli. That way it'll catch the last two damaging things here. You'll notice that even... So this is why I do this, the order of these healing CDs, is because it allows you to get hit. And if I see a party member get hit during it, I will try to heal them, and as you can see, I still survived anyway, so it's okay. It's okay. No harm, no foul. As soon as I figure out my position, I will send out shields and Holos. That way it'll catch both the stack marker and the following Inferno Theorem AoE. It's important to send out Holos early enough so that it's up later on in the fight, because just like the first boss, the timing is a little tight. It's not that bad, but if you do it after the stack markers, it won't be up in time. Here I'll use both Caracoli and Physis and just let the regen ticks heal us to full and continue DPSing. This really does no damage, so I don't do much of anything. To pre-shielding here. Honestly, probably could have used Panaheima here. That okay, I use it there for some reason. That's fine. Ideally, you use it before the first one hits. Alright, so again, you'll see that Holos is just coming up. I usually stay somewhat in the center-ish, and then as soon as the flare markers appear, you can start moving. You have time. So Holos here. I'd actually recommend using Physis with Holos. That way it's up for the second analysis. And then I'll run towards the center, make sure I hit everyone with Caracoli and Physis, get back into position. And then I'll swift cast here with a Zoe into Duma. Swift cast is not totally necessary, but I do recommend it because if you're a little late, it might get a little spooky if people aren't mitting there. I asked the machinist in our group to use Tactician there to make it safer. So this is the same deal. Don't have a whole lot of stuff, but that's okay. Since Physis wasn't up a little bit earlier, I'll just use it with Caracoli here, and it serves about the same effect, so it's not that bad. And that's enough to keep us all good. I just use an Ixicoli here to make sure people are topped off before the next Inferno Theorem. And luckily for me, we kill it before it even happens. And one of the nice things is you have a lot of time to just kind of wait for 2 minutes to come back up. So we wait almost a minute, 45 seconds, something like that, before we pull, because the enrage on this is 5 minutes and 37 seconds. From what I understand, I use slightly different strats from the norm, mostly for Dartboard 1 and the bombs plus chain mechanic. I think most people tend to do Dartboard 1 based on colors and your roll. The way I do it is positional based around 4 panels, which in my experience tends to be fairly consistent. And then for the intermission part with the bombs and chains, I am using what I call the true north strat instead of using the bombs relative positioning. So it makes contending with the donuts, the blue donuts, not as awful. I didn't have cooldowns planned too much for this other than for the dartboard mechanic, because that's really hard hitting. But here we just start off with Caracoli and an Ixicol, nothing too fancy. And just keep DPSing. Let the regen tick us up to full health. But definitely the dartboard, both dartboard mechanics hit pretty hard, so that's where I want Holos. And then here we will use Physis and Ixicoli. Probably should have done those in the reverse order that I did it there, but that's okay. And then since Caracoli's back up, I'll use that for this. Using mostly OG CDs to get us back up. I'll do a Pepsis just for extra safe. And then for this, as soon as you see the debuffs appear, you want to use Holos so that it ensures that it's up for the last dartboard mechanic. And then here we use Heart of Light and Tactician. I also put Caracola here. And then you'll see that we take like a third of our health, which isn't too bad. Ideally, I would have Caracoled here before the Force Marches go out so that it catches both the spread and then this arrow that's coming up. But I will just use Pepsis and Ixicoli to get us up, and Physis. And it's not too scary. Here, make sure everyone's nice and healthy, get the shield out. And then here, our tank will use their invuln. They should use some things to help, get their health back up, because this part is kind of also healing intensive. So here you see that Holos is just coming up, which is why you want to use it fairly early in the last Starper mechanic. And then Caracoli. So we also got Heart of Light and Tactician there again, so there's not too much damage. Take about a third of our health again. And easily in time for to get everyone to full here. Otherwise I might have used Numa, Zoe and Numa. So our DPS is pretty decent, so we kill it fairly soon, but ideally before the next stack or spread goes off, I'll just pan Haima, because it's gonna go into 3 arrows. It was the run. It was the run. Okay, double checking. I have inventory space. Oh my god. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it wasn't that bad. This was my first commentary. If you're interested in the slightly different strats that I use, I'll post some links in the doobly-doo and hopefully maybe on the screen. Otherwise, have a great day.